Hey, what's up? My name is Mr. Popo, and in this tutorial, we're gonna learn how to create a beautiful Dune logo animation, all inside of After Effects. Let's go! Alright, so the first thing we may want to do, we're gonna create a new folder, we're gonna call it tutorial, and in this folder, that's where all the things that we're gonna create are gonna live in. And so, before we do that, let's just discuss what we're going to be creating. So we need a fade in animation where our logo is going to come in very nicely. We'll have these astral animations along with the logo animation, obviously. We need these astral animations, we need these astral backgrounds, a little bit of flares, a little bit of blurs, some color correction fixing, some good background that keep on going. And so quite a lot of things and very simple stuff that we're going to learn how to create. So the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is create a new composition. It doesn't really matter what you call it from now, but just having a composition would be great. Usually for logo animations, it's 5 seconds. It never really goes farther than that. So just doing a 5 seconds on a 16:9 or any aspect ratio that you like. So let's just go with that. So the first thing we may want to do is import these pictures, which I got from Toros Kose's Behance project about Dune. And all I did was I started tracing the logo. And so to do this, I'm just going to go and turn down the opacity a bit so that it doesn't confuse me. And I'm going to go to the pen tool and make sure that it's a stroke. The reason we're going to go with the stroke, it's because I want to see what I'm doing. So we're just going to put a keyframe there, and then we're just going to go and hold shift. Do not let it go. Hold shift, and then again hold shift, and then again, and then put shift to go straight, another shift to go straight, and then hold shift here, let go, hold shift, let go, and then try to make it as close as possible, let it go, hold shift to make it straight, and then close it down. So you don't really have to be 100% perfect, just if you get something. And then all I need to do now is just go here and just put it white. Cool. Now, before we go ahead, let's not forget that we need to go to transform and make sure that this anchor point is in the center. The reason for this is because we're not going to recreate all this here. We're just going to go and rotate this. And this will be very important to rotate. So I'm going to show you why. So I'm just going to go and center this like that. And then I'm just going to go hit duplicate. So edit, duplicate, or Control D. And then I'm just going to move this. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the selection tool and move this holding shift. So when I hold shift, I can move it. So I'm just going to go somewhere here. And then I'm going to go to the rotation tool and try to rotate it as something like this. Cool. And so you just do the same thing for the others. So grabbing this, duplicating it, Control D, learn to use the shortcuts, Shift, W to rotate. I'm gonna rotate it while holding shift. So when you do shift, you can rotate it by angles. Cool. And then I'm gonna duplicate this one last time. Shift, try to make it at the center as much as possible. W to rotate, and then we'll just push it a little bit to the left. Perfect. And so, not to get confused, I'm gonna call this D, I'm gonna call this U, I'm gonna call this N, and I'm gonna call this E. Perfect. Now, what we need to do is we need to create this. But before we go ahead, let's stay organized. So I'm just gonna select everything here. And I'm going to go and pre-compose. I'm just going to put them in a folder so that if I want to animate them, I won't be really bothered by anything else. So pre-compose, and I'm going to call this A1 title, normal. Okay, cool. So now that I go inside, all my letters are there. So that's pretty cool. Now, let's just hide this and let's start creating the astral. So we're gonna hold this and go into the eclipse and make sure it's not fill, because if we try to do fill, it's gonna be like this. So that's not what we want. So we want to go to stroke. So put this off, and then you can just keep this as 1 for now. and then you can change it later and make sure it's white. Everything being white is very important, by the way, so make sure that you got that right. So the first thing is we have this little thing here, so I'm just gonna go create that circle, of course, and I'm just gonna go and create another circle. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just following whatever Toroskos has created. So make sure that every time that you finish a circle, you don't put them all together. Make sure they are separate. So just go outside and do that again. Cool. Again, you don't really have to be perfect. So just having it is what matters. And then for these, I'm just gonna go to the pen tool and make sure that I start from here, then go there. Cool. And then here, then go there. Don't worry about that. I'll show you how to fix it. Go here, pop, and then here. Cool. And to get something like this or something like that, it's very simple. All I need to do is create a circle with a stroke and with a black background. It's really important. That's why I said make everything white and black. So now we fix that thing there, and then we can just go ahead and do that. Cool. So now you can just go ahead and try to retrace everything just like I did, and I'm not gonna bore you with it. It's gonna take some time. Take your time, take it slow, learn, enjoy the process. So I'm just gonna cut and jump in time. Alright, so now that we finished this, let me tell you about a little of a quality of life things that you need to keep in mind when doing this. So as you can see here, and if I maximize this window, you will see that I have different colors. So all the shapes all represent shapes, astrals, behind a kind of letter. So what I do is when I create them and I finish, I just go here, you see this tag right here, I just go here, click, and then I choose whatever color I feel like I want to keep for this letter, because these shape layers become more and more populated that later on, if I have a lot, it will become really hard to know. And if I want to animate, I would have no idea which one is which one, especially because there is no way you can name them, because it doesn't make sense. Sphere 1, Sphere 2, Sphere 3 doesn't really make sense, and you can't really have a system to name these. So what you do, it's better to just color them. Or what you can do is you can create a right click somewhere without selecting anything, and then you can put a null object here. Cool. And then I'll bring this null object, for example, here in E, and I think the blue cyan is obviously E. So I'm just going to take it and I'll just parent everything here. I'm just going to call it E. Perfect. So now that we have the U, I'm just going to take everything that is about the U and I'm going to put it there. And then I'll go anything that goes with the D and put it with the D. Cool. So now if I just move this, it will move everything. So that's pretty cool. So again, let's stay organized. Let's take everything and right click, pre-compose, and we're going to call this to Astral Logo. Cool. Make sure. Cool. So now we have our Astral logo and then we have our logo. Let's hide them. Now what we're going to do, we need to create the astral that will go with the background, the one that moves really slow and is not really that super important to show. So as you can see, it's really faded. So what we're going to do, we're not going to create everything here. So I'm just going to try to do as little as possible. So I'm just going to do something like this. Make sure I remove the fill because we don't need it. It's in the background. Cool. So that's one. And then I'm just going to do someone like this one. And then I'm just going to go, always make sure you deselect, huh? All right. And then I'm just going to go to something like so. And then I'm just going to go take this one. By the way, make sure that everything is in the center anchor point. Duplicate this one. Move this one here. And then duplicate this one. Move it somewhere over here. So basically these things. And of course, I can just add some quality of life, small circles like this. And then another probably circle here. So I'm just holding Shift and Control to get something really perfect, perfect sphere. I'm just gonna get something like that. Cool. And then I'll just take everything. Make sure that everything has anchor point in its center. close all this, and then pop, pre-compose, and I'm gonna call this 03 astral background, BG, bad game, background. Cool. All right, so we're pretty much there. We have our logos. We don't need this one anymore, so you can just delete it. Thank you, Kotaro-skase. Cool. All right, so let's just take everything here, and we're just gonna put it inside here. So it is wise now to call this CC main composition. CC means color correction, so main composition. So this is pretty cool. All right, so CC, we have the title, we have the logo, we have the astral background. Now, what are we gonna do? We are gonna go and try to animate the logo. All right, so let's go into the title and let's focus on this one by just soloing on it. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring it from the left and slowly bring it into its place. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and say, because I know I'm gonna bring it in 2 seconds. So just solo on this, bring in the position, go into the beginning and selection tool, bring this a little bit far like this. Cool. And then if we play, this is what we have. Perfect. Now let's select both and do an F9 or keyframe assistant, easy ease. All right, so let's play again. It's perfect. All right, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring in the scale. So I'm gonna hit S, bring in the scale, I'm gonna go in the beginning, and I'm gonna just drag this one here. All right, somewhere around here, just a little bit. Cool. All right, so let's see. Perfect. So let's scale that in. That's amazing. And then I'm gonna go for a bit, just a little bit more. I'm gonna press T for opacity. And I'm gonna go into the beginning and put 0. Great. Then I'm gonna press U to show all the keyframes. So this is what we did so far. So I'm just gonna select this too, go into the graph, change this into speed, and then I'm gonna play a little bit with the speed, and I'm just gonna go with something like this. So I want them to come fast, but then slow. And maybe they're a little bit too fast, so I'm just gonna go slow them. Or what I could do is I could just bring this like that. You see? Perfect. All right, so I'm just gonna close this one here, just to see this. Perfect. All right. And now what I could do, I could add a little bit more beauty to this. So by pressing rotation, I'm gonna go into the beginning and I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit like this. And then same thing, just easy ease this time. All right. Or what we could do as well, so we could just follow steps with what we did before. So these things are all about how you feel about them. So it just comes mysteriously like that. Cool. Let's make it a little bit better. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go into the effects and I'm gonna bring in a blur. So you could go and find the blur that you want. And usually I don't really use this. But you can go here to fastbox blur, then you could use it. Or there is a beautiful shortcut from Video Copilot FX Console where you just press Control Space, but you have to install the plugin called FX Console. And then I just look for my effect. For example, here, fastbox blur. And so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna blur it like this. Cool. I'm gonna put a keyframe in the beginning. And then here, I want this to become normal, so 0. And then take both of them and do an easy ease. And so let's see now. And then it comes mysteriously in. You see how beautiful that is? Perfect. Now the last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go into D. All right, so now that we have a D, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take this, change to mask from shape layer, and then I can just come here. Something like that. Press M for mask, go to subtract. Cool. And then I'm just gonna do a mask path in the beginning, like that. And then oops, push it a little bit too far. Cool. And then I'm just gonna take this and then shift select this and then bring this like that. So like we did a little, a little animation like this. Cool. Beautiful. So let's see it. Perfect. Now I'm just going to do exactly the same thing for the other letter. So for example, I'm just going to show you an example, and then you can do it for all of them. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go here, for example, I'm going to do a scale. And then in the beginning, I'm going to do something like this again. And then I'm just going to do position and opacity. Not position. I mean opacity, and then come back here, do a 0, pop, pop, and then I'm gonna go copy this, make sure I'm in the beginning, paste it, cool, and then the last thing I could do is rotation again, so rotation like that, and then in the beginning I'm just gonna rotate it like that, and then both of them could become perfect. Now I'm just gonna go and do it for N and E. All right, perfect. Here we are. So we have all the letters animated. In the final, I did animate all of them as in coming in, but I didn't do it here. So please do it in your case. All right, so we have the D, we have the U, we have the N, and we have the E. That's perfect. Now all we need to do is a little bit of pushing like this, a little bit of pushing like this, and just a slight one like this. All right, so let's see. Cool. So we have a little bit of offset between both of them. You see? So that's perfect. Great. Now, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do a little bit of a funny thing here. We're gonna do this little ghosting here for the D. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring in the effect called echo. Cool. So what echo does, it just repeats whatever this layer has been doing or is doing. And so for now, I'm just gonna put this one up. So for now, and hide this. So for now, we only have 1. So I'm just gonna put, just on an example, I'm gonna put 5. So you can see I have 5 things going on. So see, you see, so it echoes whatever you layer that it has this effect with the number of times, and this is the delay. Cool. Perfect. But I would like to have a ghost effect, and for that I'm just gonna go to decay. I'm just gonna decay it a bit like that. Cool. There we go. Perfect. And now if I turn on the fastbox blur, this is what I get. Awesome. Now all I need to do is copy exactly this and do it for all the others. So take all this and put it. So again, I'm just gonna go, no, I'm just gonna go take this, put it on all of this. Perfect. And just switch this one up there, switch this one up there, and then the last one, switch this one up there. Let's look at what we have. Perfect. So we have a little bit of a ghosting going on. I think it would be great if this one could have even more ghosting, I think. But let's see. Cool. Yeah, I think it needs a little bit more. Something like that. Cool. Let's see. Perfect. Cool. Now, let's do a little bit more. Let's add a little bit of crispiness into this ghosting. So let's duplicate this one. And I'm just gonna focus on this and make sure that I change it to something like dark green. Okay, and put it below. All right, so what is this actually? So what are we gonna do? We're gonna extend this a lot more. Let's just put it to, for example, 48. Okay, so as you can see, it's a huge extension. So let's try it again. So it's a huge extension. It's a little bit heavy on the graphic card, but that's all right. Cool. And I'm just gonna go and make this 0.7. That's cool. And what we can do after this, I'm gonna go and add an effect called turbulent displace, which make things wave, water or wind or something like that. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make this size a little bit smaller, and the turbulence would be great if we could animate it. So here, I'm gonna put the amount to 0 and show me the keyframes. Then I'm gonna go a little bit far back and I'm gonna make this like 20 or maybe even higher, like 30. Cool. Easy ease, and let's look at it. All right, cool. And let's look at it with the normal D. Cool. Now, what would be great if at this point here, it doesn't really start the same way, but it actually is a little bit like that. And so then it comes in. And what would be even great if we can actually add, we have here position. Cool. So it doesn't really start from there. Oh, I'm actually moving everything. My bad. So I'm just gonna go into position and bring this, just this one, down a bit. Let's see. And then for rotation, I'm gonna bring it a little bit later. Let's see again. Perfect. Nice. Cool. One thing I could probably do here is if this one doesn't really start too far, so something like that. Cool. All right. Let's look at it. I don't think we really need this one here. It was just a mistake. And then you see that thing where it just comes in. That's more ghostly. Okay, cool. So now all we need to do is just do exactly the same thing. All right, so we're pretty done here. So check this out. Dune title coming in nicely. As you can see, you see the benefits of actually rotating it and moving it a little bit down. You see, it just comes in like if it's really 3D. And also look at the D. Look at the D, man. The D always looks nice. That's what she said. So what are we going to do next? If we go back here and let's just hide everything here. Look at what we have. This is nice, but we need to do a little bit of Astra logo animation. Cool. So obviously it will take forever on YouTube or whatever medium this is going to be uploaded in, wherever you're watching it. It's going to take forever to animate all this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you roughly how to animate one of these things, and then you can just watch the video of how I actually animated it, and you can follow, or you can make your own creative style. Whatever you choose, you should be fine. Cool. So for example, this one. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna start looking for this. So this is very simple. It's really small. That's not what she said. It's really small. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna bring it as a scale. So let's just go into, for example, 1 second, put a keyframe, go back, do a 0. That's it. And just do an F9. Easy ease. Perfect. Now let's animate the next thing, which is this one. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do same thing basically. So I'm just gonna go and copy this. Just go here, copy this. So that's what we have. But then for this one, because it's pretty big, we're just gonna do a little bit of a keyframe. So that it comes a little bit better. Cool. And then one thing I could add in here is do a little bit of opacity so that it's not rough, because this is a logo animation in a movie, so it shouldn't be rough. It should be pretty easy. I'm just gonna go and do this like that. Then maybe just bring this guy like that. Cool, that's better. All right, so for the big one, what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna scale it. It doesn't make sense. So I'm just gonna go and do a trim path. So here, trim path, then I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna say that it's gonna finish at 2 seconds, and then it's gonna start from 0. So what's gonna happen? I'm gonna have this like that. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna go easy ease. Bring in the opacity as well. So T for opacity, put a keyframe at the end, then go back early, put a 0. Perfect. Okay, so I don't need to easy ease this one. Nice. We haven't finished, but it's good to just finish the others. Then I'll show you what we're gonna do. And so for this one, you could use trim pad as well. So no need to redo everything. Just copy this, close it, show all the other things like that, and yeah, just do it like that. Though it should be fine now. Perfect. And the last one, this one, what I'm gonna do something pretty interesting. So I'm just gonna do a scale, obviously. Cool. So it should start somewhere here. So 0 to 100. So take this back. This should be a 0. All right. So it scales up, but then we need a little bit of animation. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna push it here. All right. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to position, put a keyframe, go like a few seconds, and then I'm just gonna push it to where it's near the end. Cool. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna easy ease this. Perfect. Go to position, Alt, hold Alt in your keyboard, and then click. Cool. And then what I'm gonna do, just type this, loop out, and make sure inside you put these parentheses and then choose ping pong. So what ping pong means, it will animate until here, and then it will play it like this again. And then it will just keep doing this, ping pong. You see? And so if I play this, you see? So that's something I could do. So that's pretty good. That's really good. Now, remember, this is for the E, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take everything, because everything is following E. I'm gonna take this E. I'm gonna go like 2 seconds, say that this is the end. But then in the beginning, I want it to kind of come like the E. So I'm just gonna bring it from somewhere like this. Then do an F9. Cool. Maybe you should take a little bit more. All right. And then in the same way, what I want to do, I'm gonna go to rotation, go a little bit so that I can see it like that. And what I want to do, I want to F9 that one so that it's smooth and nice. Cool. So now if I go back and then I look at this, nice. And then all I need to do now is turn down the opacity of this one. But we'll fix all this later on. Cool. So now you know how to animate all this astral. So what you could do something like this at the end. So at the end, you should be having something like this. So this is an example of what I did on the original piece. Cool. All right, get to work. Animate as much as you want, however you feel like it. If you want to follow, just look at how this is animated or get the project file on the link in the description. I will write it down there and attach it. And when you're done, all right, so this is what we have. If we finish the animation, cool. So now we just need to do basically the same thing for the astral background, where what you need to do, that's why we did everything as a circle, because all you could do, for example, I'm just going to show you on one. I'm just going to go and go to shape, trim path. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to look until I actually can see it. Cool. You see it like that? So I can just do, for example, because this is just 5 seconds and this is in the background, so I'm just going to do something like this. So start from the beginning, and then at 5 seconds it just should be going like this. Okay, just like that. So no easing, just like that. It has to be really, 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 really simple. Cool. And then you literally do that for everything else. Then at the end you should be having something that goes like this. It's pretty cool. Alright, so now it's time for us to create the background. So to create the background, I'm just going to do new solid, or Control Y, Control plus Y. I'm going to call this background. Color doesn't really matter because we'll see why. So I'm just going to go put it at the end. I'm just going to hide these two. So I'm just going to focus on the title for now. I'm just going to go to the background, and instead of just calling it a day, I'm going to stylize this background. And to do that, I'm going to use an effect called fractal noise. So this is what you have in fractal noise. There's no animation, there's nothing. And I'm just going to go into the fractal type and try to do a dynamic. Okay, so it's more interesting to see it, it's smoother. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and increase this a little bit, something like that, so that I can see the whites and the difference between the white and the black. And I'm just going to crunch this a little bit more, just like that. Cool. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go into the transform a bit, and I'm just going to try to rotate it just a bit, something like that. Cool. And I'm just going to go turn this off, because normally when you scale both of them. So what I want is to be able to actually just scale, you know, one of them. And the issue with this is that your maximum is 600. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here and do something pretty crazy like this. Cool. And then for this one, I'm just going to do pretty much the same thing, like 2450. Is it something as big as that? And we're just going to go and take this somewhere we're happy with, something like that. And yeah, all I need to do now is just look for something that I'm kind of happy with, like this. You see? Perfect. Also, what I could do, I could turn down the opacity of this. All right. So just do something like 60%. Cool. So this is cool. All right. So logo animation. Perfect. And then what I could do, I could just go and animate it, but very lightly, like this. Very lightly, not so much, just a bit. You see, just a bit, like a liquid going, or a gas in the universe going. Okay, and then to color this, I'm gonna use a tint. Like always, whenever you have black and white, you could just easily color them with a tint. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go for something that is dark, again, because this is a background. So look for something that is slightly dark. Something like that works. And the problem with this, I'm just gonna show you. You see, it's still a little bit sharp. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use a Gaussian blur. So this is a blur, so make sure you choose this one and just increase this a lot. Okay, so struck at like 400. Cool. And then just bring this back. So now this is what we have. So it's going on, and we're gonna see it with all the color corrections and things that we're gonna add later. So don't worry about it much now. Perfect. So we've finished animating the background. That's all we need to do. All right, now we can just start doing a little bit of simple stuff. So I'm just gonna go create a new solid. I call this the Hollywood stripe. Just makes it look more Hollywoodish for a style frame. So basically what you do, you make a black solid, and you go to rectangle, you double click, so it just fixes itself on the solid, and you just double click it, and then you hold control, so you just get a little bit like this. Cool. And then you just revert it. So basically you have this stripe, so just in case you don't see. You just get this stripe. Cool. And then since we're just doing simple stuff, I'm just gonna go create a new solid, and I'm gonna call this vignette. And I'm just gonna darken the parts where the focus is not gonna be important. So I'm just gonna do something like this. Because the logo is here, so I just wanna focus on the logo here. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna feather the mask a lot, so you see. And then I'm just gonna do subtract. So you see here is gonna be much more brighter than whatever that is outside. So I could just actually just do it like that. And just a little bit on the D. And of course, we just turn this down like 40%. Cool, you're done. And then lock it, because we're not gonna do anything anymore. Cool. All right, so let's get some elements in. And for that, I have these legacy videos, and those things unfortunately I cannot provide, but you can get them at lensdistortions.com, and it's basically a website that gives you these lens distortion videos, and it's highly used in every single industry you can think of: fashion, photography, movie, games, we all this. And we use this, I remember, a lot when we worked on Battlefield 5. Specifically, we use these a lot in transitions. We use this in the movie, we use this in the game, we use this for VFX effect. So it's something that is cheap and something that you really need. So I highly advise you to do that and try to get them, or get something as close as this, something that you can afford, or something that you can get for free. But yeah, lens distortions, try to get this. And the way I normally use this, so I'll just go and bring this into my composition here. And so I'm just gonna put them here and use a screen effect. And so you'll see that all I need to do is just press play, basically. See what I mean? So it literally does most of the work for you. Cool. All right, so what I'm gonna do now, as you can see, it's so sharp here. So the first thing I'm gonna do a little bit of a fast box blur here. Just a little bit. Perfect. That's great. Cool. And if you want, you can just turn down the opacity a bit, but I think it's pretty fine for now. All right. So we have blue, but the issue is we don't have enough colors that will go with the blue. And so one thing I actually could do, I could just bring this like that. Perfect. And we need something that goes with the blue. So I'm just gonna duplicate this, and I'm just gonna solo it because I want to show you something. And I'm just gonna go to, let's go toward the end, you know. I'm just gonna go here at the end, just bring this like that. I'm just gonna look for, yeah, you see this? Cool. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and I just want this. Cool. And then I'm just gonna go and feather that. Perfect. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and do a little bit of a tint. And instead of just having the blue, I'm just gonna orange it. Perfect. All right. And then I'm just gonna resize this and put it somewhere here. Perfect. Let's see everything now. All right, so we got something pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now let's just hide these two and let's focus a little bit on the tile before we go ahead. So even if you don't have this, it's not really a big problem, but it's good if you have them. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna call in a fractal noise. Okay, so just follow me here. So let's just solo this, and it's too bright. Cool. So the idea here is to have a texture and have this logo a little bit unique rather than just, you know, just having a colored logo. And to add this texture, I'm just gonna keep it basic, soft linear. It's basically still the same thing. I'm just gonna add a little bit here, just a little bit like that. And the brightness is really important, so I'm just going to go to something like this, not too much. See, I just want to have a clear distinction between the white and the black. Cool. And we can keep this as it is. When it comes to transform, we can just scale this just a little bit up because it's too small now. And size matters. And so that's pretty cool. And yeah, we can just animate this, and then this will be, you know, this will be animating inside of our title. So that's the idea. So instead of animating it, I'm just going to go and do an expression, and I'm call this time 100. So what this will do, as the time goes in, it will animate basically the logo. So that's pretty cool. All right. And now the one thing that I wish to do is if I could just, for example, multiply this, and then what I can do is color again using tint. Remember, just like we used for the background, using tint help us take whatever is the white value and color it. And then if we want to also, you know, control the black values, we could. So, but for this case, we just want to do the white values. So let's see what we have. Perfect. And with everything else, you see, so that's it's pretty cool. So we have some white, some red, some blue. So that's cool. Now, the last thing I could do here to make things even better, and this is something that you need to download on AE scripts or get it on their website, which is Deep Glow, or you could just use your normal glow. But for my case, I want Deep Glow because it's such one of the most beautiful glows that exist out there. So I'm just going to increase a little bit the radius because I want the effect to go a little further. So I'm just going to go here and increase it to something crazy like this. All right. So without it, with it. I'll just keep it at 1. It's pretty cool. I could just do this. Perfect. That's amazing. You see, that's a little bit more cinematic. And now what I'm going to do before we move forward, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this exact title. All right. And I'm just going to duplicate it. Now we have exactly the same title. So I'm just going to go behind. Okay. Title directional blur. And just put this like that. Great. And for directional blur, I'm just going to go something like blue. Okay, cool. So the point of this is to stylize this text. And the way I'm going to stylize it, I'm going to use an effect called directional blur. And basically what this effect does, it just blurs your text. But instead of up, I need this size. So I'm just going to go to 90. So if we look at both titles, you see what I mean? So I'm just going to increase this a lot, like 350. You see what I mean? So now that should give you an idea of where I'm going. And the idea here is to also change this to something a little bit darker. So the value that I've used here, I believe, is this. So it's slightly darker. So the dark values become slightly bluer, blue dark, and yeah, directional value, and keep the glow up. Cool. Or we could just, actually, it's better like this. Great. Now, we need to animate this a little bit. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do opacity because I don't want this to start from the beginning. You see, like this. You see, I don't want this to be like this and coming up. I need this to come in. So I'm just going to do 0. I'm going to wait a bit until things starts setting clear here. And then I'm going to do 100. All right. Things are setting and then I see them. That's great, but not great enough. So I'm just going to do a little bit of differences because I need it to flicker. Okay, and I don't want to animate this myself. So I'm just going to go and do a wiggle 120. Cool. And so what this will do is it just will, as you can see, it will wiggle, as you can see here, it will wiggle the opacity every second a little bit. Cool. And the next thing I could do is have this play like this. A little bit from time to time. And what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna go here, I'm gonna do a wiggle, 1, maybe a value of 50, so it changes up and down from 0 to, you see, so it just keeps playing a bit. So that's cool. All right, so continuing, now that we have this, what do we need to do? We kind of need to do the same thing for the Astro logo. So let's go to Astro logo. Let's go and get the fractal noise, the tint, and the dip glow. Let's just get them and basically just put them for both of them. And just put them for both of them. That's just gonna apply everything. Now let's just focus on this one. So we have this. It's pretty cool. Now, what I could do basically is just go and because look, it's very apparent, it's standing way too much. And what I need to do, I would love if the viewer can just focus on the logo instead of this additional logo information. And to do that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and add a Gaussian blur. All right, and what I'm gonna do here is just, you know, just solo this, and I'm just gonna increase the blur like a lot, something like this, and just put a keyframe here. All right, and then as we go, this is just gonna go lower and lower, so something like that. Perfect, and then just take this and then just put an easy ease. So it's gonna be blurred, and then later on it's just gonna become clearer and clearer. Okay, and then that is cool. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go and animate this. So 0, then we're gonna go a bit, and maybe some 25. Then we're gonna go a bit, and then it's gonna go to 90, and then it's gonna go down to 80. Okay, and then we'll just take everything, put an easy ease, and of course we're just gonna add this, and then also this one. We could just screen this. Cool. So let's just see everything. All right, so that's looking pretty good. We have a little bit of things to still do, but we're getting close. So one thing we could do is just get done with this, put this into something like 15. All right, so that's looking great. I'm just gonna add this into 25 and just call it a day. Yeah, 25 is pretty good. All right, and the one thing we need to do, because as you can see here, it's very clear, and everything here is clear as well. So that's something that we want to take care of. And to do that, I'm gonna go inside, and I'm gonna go and create an adjustment layer on top of everything else, okay? And I'm gonna call this roughen. And I'm gonna use an effect called roughen edge. And what this effect does, in the beginning, it's a little bit too much. But as I go down, you can see that what it does is it eats out of your layers or whatever source material that you give it or you put it on top. And what I want is, basically I could just use this value and I could just decrease the size of the noise. So basically this is like the fractal noise, but then it's eating out of the edge. And I'm just gonna put this into a very small value like 10. All right, so that's pretty cool. And I can take off the complexity into 1. All right, so that's my big roughen. And then as a key thing that you learn in design and as you go in, you wanna have details and level of detail. So this is the big detail. And then I'm gonna duplicate this one. And then I'm gonna make this like really, really, really small, something like that. And yeah, this looks great, but then I need a little bit more details, or 3. So this gives me these 2 levels of details that pretty much cover everything else. So if I go back here, all right, so if I go back and look at how it actually looks like, so you can see that it's actually eating off the detail. And what I could do, instead of making it eat everything, I just want these black things to not completely disappear. So for that, I'm gonna turn down the opacity a little bit. So you can see that there is a bright spots here and there's no darkness. It's just eating. It's like you're just making things shine a little bit. And with the deep glow, remember, so as you can see, the deep glow is going to make things shine a little bit more. All right, where it's white. And then whatever is dark is just going to be there. Cool. And all we need to do now is basically just take this. And we can just lock this. And then go inside and put this one on this one as well. All right. Cool. All right, so that's awesome. So we have the text. We have everything coming in. That's pretty cool. One thing that is actually pretty weird, I'm just gonna go and increase a little bit of that because I just want to be able to see this a little bit more. Cool, so we just can see a little bit more of that, so that's what I wanted. And actually I could just go to something like 3. Perfect. Now, what we need to do, we're gonna a little bit stylize the text. So I'm just gonna go and come here. So it's really important that you come here and you duplicate this, and then you're gonna call this title edge. All right, and so go inside of it. So now anything that you change here will not really affect anything that changes here. So that's what we want. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna delete this. So I just want this text right here. Cool. And then I'm just gonna go and remove for all of them actually. Select all of them, remove the fill. Perfect. And now I'm just gonna do 1. It doesn't matter really the color because we're gonna change the color outside. So this is what we have. That's pretty perfect. Now all I need to do is check outside. So duplicate this and put the title edge on top and make sure that it's on add. Now you're gonna have that really shiny thing there. That's pretty cool. Another thing you could do, by the way, instead of just having this, I'm just gonna go to this actually, so that there is a difference between, you see, there is a difference between the edge and the fill. Cool. One thing you could do actually is just play a little bit with the stroke animation. So for example, I'm just gonna select them all, do stroke width, perfect. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna maximize the screen just so that I can put this like that, then go at the end and just put the screen like that. Perfect. Press U so that you can close everything, and then select them again, press U. And then actually what I want to do, I should have just kept on focusing on that. So what I'm gonna do like 0 here, and then for this one I'm just gonna do 0.5, and then for this one I'm gonna say that it's gonna come a little bit earlier, and it's gonna be around the 0.75, and then for this one it's just gonna be 1. Cool. So I'm gonna have something like that. And one thing you could do actually is just start this earlier. I mean later when the title comes in. Cool. All right, so that's pretty good. We still have one thing to do. So, and I'm gonna get right into it. So I'm gonna create a new solid, and I'm gonna use this for Flare 1. And obviously what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call in the plugin Video Copilot Optical Flares. So optical flares. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna go into options, and instead of using this, I'm just gonna clear all. And the only thing that I want to do is lens object, this and this, close the screen. And make sure the scale is around something like this. Then I'm gonna go inside options and make sure that in the stretch, I'm gonna make sure that this is slightly smaller and this is slightly less obvious. And then we're gonna have something like that. Perfect. The only thing that is troubling us is we're not able to see this. I'm just gonna go to a place where I can actually see the letters and they are straight. So I'm just gonna go like this. All right, I'm gonna start the layer from here by putting the bracket, and I'm just gonna put a keyframe on brightness and keyframe on position. So for now, I won't really care about the brightness too much. I'm just gonna go like this. And then I'm just gonna drag this holding shift, something like that. Cool. Then close the keyframe by Alt, close bracket, and then make sure that this is 0. And then here, I'm gonna say that it's gonna be 80, but then at the earliest, this is gonna be 0. So if we look at this, perfect. So I'm just gonna go and color this, easy ease. So if we go outside, the issue with this is that this is taking literally everything. So I'm just gonna go on transparent. Perfect. Now it fixes. So now what's gonna happen? You see, that flare is gonna be there. See? Cool. All right, now let's get back here. Cool, and then all I need to do now is just duplicate this, push it a little bit further, close this, go somewhere here. Cool. And what I want to do, I wish I actually could just do this here, and then in the beginning it could start from here, you know, something like that. So you found whatever fits you, but what I want to do is just do one last one, which is somewhere around here. So take this, put it here, and then I'm just gonna go at the end, push it here. Then I'm just gonna reverse. So what's gonna happen is that it's gonna start like that. Perfect, cool, that's it. That's all we need. All right, so this is pretty good. Now another thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this normal and I'm gonna duplicate it. All right, so I'm gonna call this bounce. And all I need to do is scale opacity. All right, and then somewhere here, scale and opacity. All right, and then I'm just gonna scale it a bit. Perfect. And then opacity, disappear. I'm just gonna wait until it comes in. So somewhere around 3. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna F9. Bam. I'm gonna make sure that this goes really fast. So again, change this to speed graph. Make sure you change the value to something like that. And then it should give you 0. Maybe something pretty small. Cool. So what's gonna happen? When the title is gonna settle in, this logo is gonna go up and then fade. So title settles in and this will just glowing, all right, like a ghost, and then disappear. So obviously we don't want it to be so sharp, so we're just gonna go and ask it our old friend Gaussian blur and just make this blur. All right, so up. Screen. Not too much. Cool. And what would be great is actually to just do a 40 here. And then in the beginning, it's somewhere around 15. And then it's just gonna come in slightly, you see? And then it's just gonna bounce like a ghost shadow. And the same way, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take, again, the title, make it big, scale it somewhere where I could see both of them, Gaussian blur, increase the blur, screen, make it small like that. Cool, so you just have it here. That was the whole point of it. Alright, so I'm just gonna go and put it somewhere. Actually, it should be on top of everything, but it should be 25. Cool. So we just have it here. Alright, that's pretty cool. Now, what we could do next? What we could do next, we could animate this a little bit better, but now it's getting heavy, so I'll just focus on this. This one. So I'm gonna create a new null object, and I'm gonna call this scalar. The reason we're gonna call it scalar, it's because exactly what we're gonna do is we're gonna scale it. So take everything, to scalar. Again, go to scale, put a keyframe, and then as we go down, scale this a little bit to 95. That's all. And so what's gonna happen? All right, so it's just gonna keep on going. That's perfect. All right, so we have our logo, we have everything, but everything is so clear. So what I want to do is I want to use, we're gonna create first an adjustment layer so that I can explain what we're gonna do next. So, and I wanna call this a camera lens blur. So as you can see here, it's a beautiful blur. It's one of the most beautiful blur, but it's very heavy. So keep that in mind. Now, the problem with this is that it's blurring everything. I wish if I could just control this randomly to blur things beautifully. And to do that, I'm just gonna call this CC for color correction, because that's what we're gonna do now, is making things beautiful, because we're pretty much done. So color correction, hide this. Now, I'm gonna make a new composition, and I'm gonna call this texture camera blur. Cool. And just put this in here, and then inside of the camera blur, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a new solid. I'm gonna call this texture blur. Cool. Put it there, and I'm just gonna call in, obviously, a fractal noise. So whatever is white, so just to show you an example, just as an example so that you guys can understand what we're doing now. So whatever it's white, it's gonna blur. Whenever it's black, it's not gonna blur. So how does that look? If I put this here and hide it, because I don't need to see it, bring in the blur, so now it's blurring everything. But here in the blur map, I'm gonna choose the camera. So you see, whatever there is white, it's gonna blur, and when there is no white, it's not gonna blur. Cool, so that's the idea. Now what are we gonna do? We're gonna animate this, but we need to take care of how this looks first. So dynamic, let's just reset it. We're gonna go to dynamic, and we're gonna make sure that we can see the white part. All right, so pretty well. And then we're just gonna kill in a little bit the black. Okay, and then what we want to do, we want to scale this a lot so that it's not like this, like a microb orgasm. So we're just gonna scale this a lot. So we're talking about 2000. Cool. I'm just gonna darken this a little bit more. Perfect. And yeah, what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna go and animate this. So time 150. Cool. And so what's going to happen is that this is going to be animated like that. See, it's pretty cool. And this is still a little bit sharp. So as you can see here, it's a little bit sharp. So what we're going to do, we're going to call in a fast box blur because it's pretty stronger than Gaussian blur. And we're just going to blur a lot, like that. So that's perfect. Now, if we go back, should take a while, but now it's better, as you can see. All right, now we need to increase a little bit our camera lens blur, so let's just do 10. All right, so we don't see much, because I think, all right, because, okay, cool. So let's see here. So we're supposed to have a blur here, you see? But it's not beautiful because it's very simple. So we need to do a little bit of changes here, okay? So first we're gonna change this to octagon. That's first. And that's just the shape of the blur for every pixel. We're gonna round the shape of that to 100%, so it's really round. But then here is the thing here. So we're gonna change the aspect ratio of the blur to a 3.3. So really gonna distort. So as you can see, it's really distorting the blur. But then we don't want it to distort this way. We want it to distort like a normal camera, like this one. So this is what we call, basically what we did here, we created a bokeh. So that's what we did here. So now this is pretty much working like a bokeh. You see, so nothing is super clear. And talking about super clear, this is the last thing we're gonna do now as an animation, is take this. All right, so just focus on this one first. I'll just explain this one. So we're just gonna go and create a mask. Okay, so mask, bam. We're just gonna create a mask, so we need to select. So I'm just gonna go and create something like this. Cool. And then what I'm gonna do, oh, I'm creating a shape. Okay, sorry, my bad. So again, select, make sure it's a mask, bam, 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 bam. And then I'm just gonna make sure that this is subtract as well. And then I'm just gonna move it a little bit so that you can see. So something like that. So you can see that now what it's doing is it's subtracting. Okay, so it's subtracting. And then the subtract, I want it to be very beautiful. Okay, so something like this. Perfect. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a keyframe here, and then I'm gonna put at the end. So in the beginning, it's like that, and then it just comes in. But I think it should comes in at later stage, not in the beginning. And I think it comes in from a very wrong place, so it needs to come from here. Cool. All right, so I just realized that this is the wrong layer. It's actually supposed to be this one. That's why it's not working well. Perfect. Now it should be working well. All right, so we'll just put that for later. And this is a 5 second, not a 3 second. Cool. And then it's gonna, oh, I was doing the wrong key, sorry. I was doing the wrong thing. Okay, so mask, cool, and it has to come later. And as we said, this is 5 second. All right, perfect. So now it's gonna go. So basically the same thing here. I'm just gonna go and do it for all the other layers. So I'm just gonna go to U, keyframe it, and it should be doing it usually normally like that. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna go to the N. I'm just gonna base it as well. All right, so that's working perfectly. And it's just gonna come in later, so that's amazing. And then same thing for here. I'm just gonna go to in the beginning. Like that. Perfect. Now if we go back, so all these things will be animated in their own way. So as you can see here, some comes in, some will go out because of that blur. And it's just gonna be smooth. One thing actually you could do, you see this title edge? For now, everything is clear. But what we could do, we could just duplicate this one, put it here, and use an alpha matte here. So just put this one there. And instead of alpha, we're gonna go to Luma. So now it's not gonna be really clear, and it's, you see, So we're gonna have that edge animated. So that's pretty beautiful. All right, and then for the edge, we're just gonna go and bloom this a lot, like 3. Perfection. Cool, and actually we can just invert it. Great things. We have this. Now let's do a little bit of color correction now. All right, so first thing to do with the color correction, we're going to do a little bit of levels. And the reason we're going to use levels, it's just to, well, let me just turn this off because it's heavy. So in levels, why I want to use levels is to just make things disappear like this. You see, it's better than just fading. Cool. So I'm just going to put a keyframe in the beginning, which is somewhere 2, and then here earlier I'm just going to drag both of them there. So what's going to happen now? You see, it's going to slowly reveal them in a much better way. Okay, so that's how you can reveal things in a better way than just fade in, fade out. Cool. And then obviously we're going to call in our beautiful curves as always. And for curves, what I want to do is just want to fix things that we couldn't fix usually, and without having the need to go into colors. We don't have much red, so we're just going to go and add a little bit of importance to the red as well. So just here as well. So we're just going to use something like that. And for this, we can just use this. And yeah, what we could do as well, now that we have that, cool. So we could use a little bit of grain because everything is so clear. What I want to go to basically final output and just make the grain just subtle so that you see it's not very, it's here. It looks like a smoke for now. One thing for sure is the directional blur right now. 0, then the directional blur here should be just 50 or around 40. Basically, not something clearer than that. All right, so let's just close this in CC. So we just close the grain now. And what we want to do next, we want to sharpen all this. We want to make things really pop off. So I'm just going to go to auto. Perfect. And in the sharpen, we're just going to do 40. So now things are gonna, you see, now things are gonna pop up. Look. You see, things are gonna pop up now, so it's really sharp. One thing we could do after this is add a little bit of focus into the center and all that by doing a radial blur. Just gonna wait for it. So in the beginning, it's like this. It's funky because it's spinning. I'm just gonna change it into zoom and reduce it a bit to 5 or even 3. Nothing too drastic. I just want everything to look in the center. So this blur will help things focus in the center. Perfect. One thing that I could use after this is do a little bit of chromatic aberration. So I'm using a plugin for free. It's called Quick Chromatic Aberrations. You can get it on their original websites. I think it's called Plugin Everything or aescripts.com. And yeah, aescripts is better. That's where most plugins are. And so for this, I'm gonna go to green and blue and obviously just change this to 99.90. Nothing too drastic, just a little bit, just so that we can see that. And one thing that I'm noticing is that in the camera edge, this is too bright. So I'm just gonna go and turn it down to 50 or even 30. Same thing goes to this, it's too bright. All right, we don't want to steal the show. We just want to make sure that people see it there. Cool. Let's wait for it. So you can see everything is playing. The chromatic aberration is beautiful. Everything is just so good. But the problem is the colors are still not there. So we're just going to have now to do it the old way, which is using the color balance. So I want a little bit of the red shadows to come up. A little bit more, so I'm just gonna close this, and for the red balance of the shadows, we're just gonna increase them a little bit, so now we'll be able to see red even better. Just gonna wait for it for a bit. You see, so now the shadows are bringing in more of the red, which is really, really beautiful. And then when it comes to the blue, we're just gonna turn it a little bit so that we can get a better blue. All right, so that's perfect. One thing I'm gonna use, and you don't really have to use this, or you could use something that you have, but this is not for free. I'm just saying it again, this is not for free. So I'm gonna use a lookup table. So this is where you can get the color correction of another movie or another mood that people already worked on this. So instead of you doing all this, you can just, you know, get a lookup table. And for example, in my case, I'm using something that that I already have. So I'm just gonna go and bring it in. All right, so as you can see, it gives me the great look, but then it kills pretty much everything, and I don't want that. So I'm just gonna go and do, for example, 70%. So I don't want the lookup table to be very prominent. All right, cool. I could actually go to 50%, to be honest. Just want to see a little bit of details coming up. Great. One last thing that I could do, this is a little trick. So we're just going to go and create a new adjustment layer. I'm just going to solo this for now with the title. Cool. And what I'm going to do here, I'm calling it Yati. I'm going to call this Yati the Man trick. So just go on Twitter and follow this guy. He made this trick. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call in curves first. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to crunch everything until I get the highlights. You see the highlights here? That's what I want. Perfect. I'm just going to get more highlights, just a little bit more. Cool. All right. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a tint to a red. So I'm just going to tint everything to a red. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Gaussian blur and go to, for example, 400. No, it's too much. I'm going to go to 250. All right, it's getting there, but I could go to 150. That's perfect. Now, take everything off. Look what's going to happen now. It's not beautiful because it's on top of everything, but instead of normal, we're going to use screen. All right, and then I'm just going to go and decrease the kind of details that I want. All right, and then make this 50%. So this gives your color a little bit of a beautiful twist. So that's how we use it. All right, thank you guys so much. This is the end of the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. A lot of things there, but with practice, this is gonna become automatic, and I hope you guys learned a lot. If you did, please do not forget to subscribe and hit the like button. It helps me with the algorithm. It gets things going and share and reach more people. I do have a Patreon, and I do appreciate every single support, whatever it is. So please make sure you check the link below. It's patreon.com/wearepopo. And if you want the project file to learn even more and see exactly how I did the original file, you can get it as well in the link below. And huge shout out to Toros Kose for his amazing concepts for this movie. That is a phenomenal movie as well. So until the next tutorial, my name is Mr. Popo, and we are Popo. I'll catch you guys on the next one.